Here are the most recent deaths in the national news, as reported at Legacy.com the fourth week of November 2023. Legacy.com is where you can find any obituary or publish an obituary in any newspaper in America and beyond. Baseball player Willie Hernandez died November 20th, 2023 at his home in Sebring, Florida. He died after battling heart problems at the age of 69. A relief pitcher, he was one of only 3 players in MLB history to win the Cy Young Award, MVP, and the World Series all in the same season. He did it with the Detroit Tigers in 1984. Hernandez is also being remembered for his seasons with the Chicago Cubs and Philadelphia Phillies. Singer Jean Knight died November 22, 2023, of natural causes at the age of 80. She had a chart-topping hit in 1971 with Mr. Big Stuff, as well as other minor hits like You Think You're Hot Stuff and My Toot Toot. Knight is being remembered as a beloved member of the New Orleans music community. Writer and puppeteer Marty Croft died November 25, 2023 in Los Angeles. He died of kidney failure at the age of 86. He and his brother, Sid Croft, created iconic children's television shows like H.R. Pufenstuf and Land of the Lost. Croft is also being remembered for helping bring us shows like The Banana Splits, Donnie and Marie, and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Filmmaker Ross McDonnell died in November 2023 at the age of 44 after going missing earlier in the month in New York City. He directed such documentaries as Colony and Elion. McDonnell is also being remembered as a cinematographer who won Emmy Awards for The Trade and The First Wave. A note to remember, sometimes personal information such as someone's cause of death is not announced immediately by their family or the authorities. When a cause of death has not been officially announced, we do not report on rumors. Every family has a right to their privacy. Cinematographer Victor J. Kemper died November 27, 2023 in Los Angeles. He died of natural causes at the age of 96. He was known for his technique that made the action seem real in classic films like Dog Day Afternoon. Kemper is also being remembered for his work on comedies, including Slapshot, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and Clue. Filmmaker Elliot Silverstein died November 24, 2023 in Los Angeles at the age of 96. He directed the comic western Cat Ballou, as well as episodes of TV shows like The Twilight Zone and Route 66. Silverstein is also being remembered for spearheading the creation of the Bill of Creative Rights for Directors, including originating the concept of the director's cut. Actress and TV presenter Annabelle Giles died November 20th, 2023 at a hospice facility in Hove, England. She died after fighting glioblastoma at the age of 64. She was well known on British TV and radio for shows like Razzmatazz and Posh Frocks and New Trousers. Giles is also being remembered as a competitor on the reality show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Businessman George Cohon died November 24, 2023 at his home in Toronto at the age of 86. He was the founder of McDonald's Canada, opening one of the country's first franchises of the famous burger chain and expanding it to hundreds of restaurants. He is also being remembered for bringing the first McDonald's to the Soviet Union in 1990, as well as for his work with the Ronald McDonald House Charities and Toronto's Santa Claus Parade. Cohon was a U.S. Air Force veteran. Football player Harald Hasselbach died November 23, 2023, of mucinous adenocarcinoma at the age of 56. He was a defensive end for the Denver Broncos for 7 seasons, helping them to victory at Super Bowls 32 and 33. Hasselbach is also being remembered for his seasons in the CFL with the Calgary Stampeders, where he became one of only a handful of players to win both a Super Bowl and a Grey Cup. Writer Betty Rollin died November 7, 2023 at the age of 87. She died by medically assisted voluntary euthanasia in Basel, Switzerland, where the practice is legal. She wrote 2 memoirs, First You Cry, about her struggle with breast cancer, and Last Wish, about her mother's death. Both were made into TV movies. Rollin is being remembered for her important role in bringing discussions about women's health to the forefront of public awareness. Musician Jordy Walker died November 26, 2023 in Prague. He died after suffering a stroke at the age of 64. He was the founding and longtime guitarist for the British post-punk band Killing Joke. Walker is being remembered for his unique guitar sound and his influence on many other musicians. Soccer player Terry Venables died November 25, 2023 after a long illness at the age of 80. He played for such British football clubs as Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur, as well as for the England national team. Venables is also being remembered for his later career as the manager of the England national team, taking them to the semifinals of the 1996 European Championships, as well as working with other teams. Chef Russell Norman died November 23, 2023, of cardiac arrest at the age of 57. He founded the influential London restaurant Polpo, as well as other restaurants like Bruto and Spuntino. Norman is also being remembered for his appearances on the BBC's Saturday Kitchen and for writing several cookbooks. The Reverend Monsignor John Delendick died November 23, 2023, of 9/11-related pancreatic cancer at the age of 74. He was the Catholic chaplain for the New York City Fire Department at the time of the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. Delendick is being remembered for his work at Ground Zero and afterward, comforting firefighters and their families as they grieved. Golfer Eddie Merrins died November 22, 2023 in Los Angeles. He died after a long illness at the age of 91. He was the longtime golf pro at the Bel Air Country Club, where he taught both future PGA pros and celebrities like Sean Connery, Jack Nicholson, and Fred Astaire. Merrins is also being remembered for his work as the coach of the UCLA men's golf team. Billionaire businessman Charlie Munger died November 28, 2023 in Santa Barbara, California at the age of 99. He was the vice president of Berkshire Hathaway, called the right-hand man to billionaire Warren Buffett. He is being remembered for his insightful investment advice. Munger was a U.S. Army Air Corps veteran who served during World War II. Photographer Larry Fink died November 25, 2023 in Pennsylvania at the age of 82. His work focused on social commentary, placing photos of the wealthy alongside images of the working class. Fink is also being remembered as an educator, teaching at Yale University School of Art, New York University, and other schools. Author Tim Dorsey died November 26, 2023 in Islamorada, Florida at the age of 62. He wrote the Serge A. Storms series of comedy crime novels set in his home state of Florida. Dorsey is being remembered for his prolific work as one of Florida's great crime novelists. Lieutenant General Julius Becton Jr. died November 28, 2023, at the age of 97. He was a U.S. Army veteran of the Korean War and the Vietnam War who served for nearly 40 years. After retiring as one of the military's top-ranking black officers, he went on to lead the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, for several years in the 1980s. Becton is also being remembered for his later career as superintendent of the Washington, D.C. public school system. Astronaut Mary Cleave died November 27, 2023, at the age of 76. She took 2 spaceflights, one of which made her the first female astronaut in space after the Challenger disaster of 1986. Cleave is also being remembered for her leadership role in NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Actor Dean Sullivan died November 29, 2023, after fighting prostate cancer at the age of 68. He starred on the British soap opera Brookside for many years, playing the lovable rogue Jimmy Corkill. Sullivan is being remembered as a British Soap Award winner who also acted on stage and hosted the radio talk show The Sullivan Show. Actress Frances Sternhagen died November 27, 2023, at her home in New Rochelle, New York, at the age of 93. She worked widely in TV and movies, with credits like Cheers, on which she played Cliff's mother, as well as Sex and the City, The Closer, and Misery. Sternhagen is also being remembered for her extensive Broadway career. She won Tony Awards for her performances in The Good Doctor and The Heiress. Singer and songwriter Shane MacGowan died November 30th, 2023, after being diagnosed with encephalitis at the age of 65. He was the lead singer for the Celtic band The Pogues, known for their Christmas classic Fairy Tale of New York, as well as singles like If I Should Fall from Grace with God. MacGowan is being remembered for his raucous live shows and his poetic songwriting. Diplomat Henry Kissinger died November 29, 2023, at his home in Connecticut at the age of 100. He served as Secretary of State under Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, and he was called by many the most powerful Secretary of State in the modern era. He is being remembered for the controversial Nobel Peace Prize he received in 1973 for his role in withdrawing the U.S. from the Vietnam War. Kissinger was a U.S. Army veteran of World War II. In addition to featuring current deaths in the news, Legacy.com also honors the lives and legacies of notable people who died in the past. Here are some of this week's anniversaries. 5 years ago this week, actor Ken Berry died at the age of 85. He was a TV sitcom star in F Troop, Mayberry RFD, and Mama's Family. 10 years ago this week, actor Paul Walker died at the age of 40. He starred in the Fast and Furious movie franchise and in films like Joyride, 8 Below, and Varsity Blues. 25 years ago this week, comedian and actor Flip Wilson died at the age of 64. He won 2 Emmy Awards for The Flip Wilson Show, which featured his popular character Geraldine. 37 years ago this week, actor Carrie Grant died at the age of 82. He was one of the great stars of classic Hollywood, known for movies like The Philadelphia Story and North by Northwest. 42 years ago this week, actress Natalie Wood died at the age of 43. Her many movies included Miracle on 34th Street, Rebel Without a Cause, and West Side Story. Journalist and publisher John F. Kennedy Jr. was born 63 years ago this week. He died in July 1999 at the age of 38. The son of President John F. Kennedy, he was the founder of George magazine. Comedian and actor Richard Pryor was born 83 years ago this week. He died in December 2005 at the age of 65. He was widely considered one of the all-time greatest stand-up comedians, and he starred in movies like Silver Streak and The Toy. Actor and martial artist Bruce Lee was born 83 years ago this week. He died in July 1973 at the age of 32. He helped bring martial arts to the West in movies like Enter the Dragon and Fist of Fury. Singer Lou Rawls was born 90 years ago this week. He died in January 2006 at the age of 72. He was known for chart-topping songs like You'll Never Find Another Love Like Mine. Actress Mary Martin was born 110 years ago this week. She died in November 1990 at the age of 76. She was a Broadway star in Peter Pan, South Pacific, and The Sound of Music. Every week in the United States, flags are lowered to half-staff to honor the lives of Americans whose communities are mourning their loss. Here are the most recent half-staff memorial flag honors. Flags in Kentucky and New Hampshire have been lowered to honor the memory of U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Tanner W. Groan. Flags in Kentucky have also been lowered to honor the memory of U.S. Army Private First Class Henry C. Wade, who was killed near the Belgian-German border during World War II. His remains were recently identified and returned home for burial. Flags in Virginia have been lowered in memory and respect of the victims, their families, and the entire Chesapeake community following last year's shooting. Flags in Montana have been lowered to honor the memory of Bighorn County Sheriff Darrell King. Flags in Ohio have been lowered to honor the memory of Concord Green Fire Chief Ralph Stegbauer and Fire Captain Jeffrey Skaggs. Flags in Massachusetts have been lowered to honor the memory of former state senator and state representative Susan Tucker. Flags in Maryland have been lowered to honor the memory of former Secretary of Veterans Affairs and former delegate George W. Owings III. You can read more about the lives of the people featured in this video on Legacy.com. At Legacy.com, any family can publish an obituary in honor of a loved one's memory online and in local newspapers everywhere. Just visit Legacy.com and select your local community. You can also follow Legacy.com on Facebook and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube to stay up to date on national news deaths.